G'day, I'm Debbie O'Shea, and this is the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, episode number 162. This podcast is being recorded on the lands of the Turrbal people. I acknowledge them as the traditional owners of the land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. They were the first music makers on this land. Hello, I'm Debbie O'Shea, and today I am joined by Bernie Hurd. You are going to love this episode. Thank you for giving us your time today. I don't think you'll be disappointed. Bernie's going to tell us all about the Music in Me teacher mentoring program, and we hear a lot about her background too. So interesting, such a wonderful person. Enjoy this chat with Bernie Hurd. And welcome to the Crescendo Music Education Podcast, Bernie Hurd. Hello, Bernie.
Hi, Debbie.
It's so lovely that you're joining me, not just for one episode, but for 2 episodes. Yay!
Thank you so much for having me along to your fantastic podcast.
I think that the messages that you've got are really important for our audience, which are mainly music educators. So we'll start by just a little bit of a background because to me, if it's okay to say this to you, Bernie, you're a little bit like, I don't know, the power behind the scenes. You know, you do a lot of really important stuff that we might not even be aware that you're the one that's helping to guide this. So I don't know if that's a fair assessment.
Oh, that's a really interesting comment, and I think I might share a few stories that as we go along today that could help to maybe explain that a little further.
Oh, okay. But either way, I'm just delighted to know you and to be able to share this. So let's start with a little bit of a bio. Here we go. So today, as you heard, we're welcoming Bernie Hurd. Bernie is currently Director of the Music in Me teacher mentoring program with the Australian Youth Orchestra. She leads a national team and works with state education systems to ensure primary teachers have access to mentoring, professional learning and resources to deliver quality music education. Her career has included leadership roles such as Executive Director of Gondwana choirs. Oh, they're so beautiful, aren't they? If you need new choral repertoire, just look up Gondwana on YouTube and
Very
you'll
special.
just gold, isn't it?
Yeah.
CEO of Sydney Youth Orchestras and Artist Development Manager and Education Coordinator at the Sydney Symphony Orchestra, where she worked closely with Richard Gill AO for 10 years. Wow. Earlier in her career, she was a music specialist educator in New South Wales schools. And she has also consulted for organisations such as the Australian Haydn Ensemble and Music in the Regions. Bernie is a Churchill Fellow, an Australia Council Emerging Leader, and recently completed an MBA at the University of Sydney. She has an extraordinary track record in governance, philanthropy, strategic partnerships, and building creative communities that support artistic excellence and diversity. Wow. Okay. All right. Now that's just like a little intro. What would you like to add to that little snapshot of your work, Bernie?
What a generous introduction. Thank you so much, Debbie. My goodness. I think perhaps something that people who have worked with me may not know. I grew up on a sheep and cattle property in regional New South Wales, and I went to one of those super special tiny 2-teacher schools, which was a really wonderful way to have my primary education. And I'm so grateful for the opportunities that we had in that beautiful little school to follow our own interests. My parents were really, really supportive. My siblings and I have all followed different paths, and I think they were as surprised as I was that music was my thing, but they found the way to support that opportunity for me. And I think that's why the heart of everything that I do is equity, whether it's working in orchestras, or choirs or mentoring. I've always been driven by the idea that every young person deserves access to the best quality of music education, no matter where they are and what kind of school system they're coming from. So, as you said, I also started out my teaching career in a New South Wales public school in Sydney's inner west, and that experience never leaves you. I think it's really formative and it grounds everything that I do now.
Because I do think, as much as I adore living and working in Australia, there's definitely, I think music is quite a powerful illustration of this. There is definitely a have and a have not. There, it's not equitable. There are
No.
children that are just not being exposed to music and music education, and those huge benefits. We know now, it's proven, those scientifically proven benefits of having music education delivered by a qualified educator. There are some kids that just completely miss out, and there are others that are getting daily music in their beautiful school by a wonderful educator. And it's just not fair in a society like ours that believes in education for everyone.
I thoroughly agree. And I think there are often parents and grandparents and people who may not be involved directly in the education system who don't realise how significantly that has changed in the generation since I was a child and and since we were all children. We had the benefit of teachers who at least were quite confident in teaching music education as part of their daily activity in a primary classroom. Singing was a natural part of how we learned. Everyone had a go at music. That really has changed significantly, particularly over the last 10 and 20 years. And the level to which the standard of the amount of music education which is delivered in initial teacher education for primary teachers has dropped so significantly. It really is a generational crisis
Mm,
for music education, one that you and I are very aware of, and I'm sure everyone who's listening to this podcast as well. However, we can't assume that everyone else is aware of that and decision makers as well.
mm, yes. And I can see that that is quite a driver in your work.
Mm.
Um, and in your career in arts, leadership, and music education, um, what would have been a highlight for you looking back? Like, I'd like to think that at the moment,
Yes,
is me. Let me just put words in your mouth, Bernie.
go for it.
Like it's, and you can again tell me if I've missed the mark. But at the moment, it seems one of your drivers seems to be we need to try to fix these issues that we're talking about. So one of the ways is through things like Music in Me and your mentoring program. So that seems to be a current driver that many of us will all jump on board with you and go, yes, this is so important. But if you look
Mm.
historically, what has been a highlight for you, looking back at all the things that you've done, and what were your earlier drivers?
Yeah, look, I think you've absolutely nailed it. I'm really driven by the work with the AO's Music in Me program. The longer I do it, I've been in the program for 3 years now, and the more I do it, the more I realize just how incredibly important it is, and the more people I meet who very much agree with that. But I think looking back, my first proper teaching job. I did the Bachelor of Music Education at Sydney Conservatorium and did some pracs in high school as well as in primary and taught in both when I first came out of uni, but then I gained a longer term role in a primary school, a public primary school in Sydney. And that really nailed it for me, that I felt that was where I was having the greatest impact. And I think I really fit in those classrooms. I loved teaching primary music. It was I was a music specialist in a reasonably sized school. So every day I would teach a different stage group. And Fridays was my favorite. It was kindergarten back to back 45-minute classes all day, and I just loved it. But I really enjoyed the bravery and the absolute fearlessness I think that young people have about music. They don't realize how clever they're being when you do continue to challenge them and don't make assumptions about what they are capable of, and you're able to continue to challenge them in that way, whether it be through recorders or work that you're doing in the classroom, or when you start an instrumental program as well. The beautiful thing about that school was we had there was no music program before I came. There were some really motivated parents who really wanted to make that happen, and that often is the case in schools where there isn't a music program. It's the parents who get it going. They had an incredibly enlightened principal who also understood what the value of music education could be for the school. The school was incredibly multicultural. It was one of the most had one of the most multicultural primary schools in New South Wales at that time, with many cultures and many languages represented within the school. And this principal recognised that actually music was the way to open the door. There were lots of new arrival families, lots of refugee families, lots of children who had come from incredibly traumatic backgrounds, and they had some really challenging stories to share. But music was a way to be able to support the children in their language development, to build empathy and connection in the community, and bring people together. So we very quickly formed choirs and recorder ensembles and bands and string ensembles and various other things. And it became something that the whole school was incredibly proud of, and everyone in the community got behind. So many people were involved in the success of that program, and I believe it's still going now, which is wonderful. So that was a real highlight for me early in the career. As time went on, I then was introduced to some people who were working at the Sydney Symphony Orchestra, Margaret Moore in particular, and she introduced me to the wonderful Richard Gill and the team there. And an opportunity came up to join the education program at the SSO, and it was the right time for me, and I was lucky enough to get the role. And so I stepped sideways into arts administration and realized this whole other world, that you could still be involved in music education and having an impact on the quality of music that is delivered in schools, but you're also working with these extraordinary artists of the SSO. There's so many of the musicians in that ensemble are truly dedicated teachers and really want to pass on their craft as well. And the obviously working with the amazing Richard Gill was extraordinary. So that was a great highlight to make that switch and go, okay, as a teacher, there's lots of other great transferable skills, I suppose you could say, things that you can do that can still draw upon what you're passionate about. That then led, after a few jobs down the road, I landed at the wonderful Gondwana choirs and working with Lynn Williams and all the team there, which was quite extraordinary for 7 years. And the thing I'm most proud of in that time was collectively we staged a thing called the Gondwana World Choral Festival in 2017, I think it was, and brought together over 1,000 singers from around the world for a multi-day festival at the Sydney Opera House. So that was a bit of a monster of a project to put together, but again, it took a massive team, and we're very proud of that. It was a huge highlight.
Wow. That's you've done some amazing things with some amazing people.
Very
Oh,
fortunate. Well, I think the biggest
absolutely.
one was working with Richard Gill. As I mentioned, I was with him for 10 years at the Sydney Symphony, just under 10 years. And I think Richard, he was the artistic director of the education program at Sydney Symphony Orchestra. And whilst he was also doing other roles in other arts organisations and so on throughout that time, but we were incredibly lucky that we got to work with him so closely. And he really taught me that music education is not a luxury, it's essential. And every child does deserve music. And that really has interestingly shaped my pathway since that time to where I am now as well.
Yes. And, recently I have changed. I used to say, of course, that every child deserves music, but I don't actually say that now. I now say that every child needs music education.
Yes.
I
Yes.
think that sometimes if we can tweak our language, it can affect the way other people think. I don't think we need to affect most of the people that's listening to this podcast are already converted to the power of music education. They probably don't need more convincing. However, it's our role to help convince a wider community. So I think that getting a hold of our language and making sure that we say it Firmly, not in a bullying way, but in a it's already decided, people. So,
Yes,
get on board. Mm.
I love
Um,
that.
Before we get on to the really finding out about music in me, can we talk gratitude for a moment? For what are you most grateful? Could be about music in me, but it could be just more generally.
More generally, looking back, and it's not often that you get this great luxury of looking back and reflecting on your career and on who were the beacons, I suppose, that supported your early development. But I really am grateful for those music teachers that I had in my own schooling. As I mentioned, I went to a beautiful little two-teacher primary school, and for much of that, it was a husband and wife team, and they introduced us to music, and enabled us to have the sing program and we played recorders and various things like that. And when I went to high school, I had an extraordinary teacher who was at our high school. She ran the orchestra program and on an absolute shoestring. And it was, yeah, she taught all of the instruments basically. And if people couldn't afford to have lessons, she would just gather people into groups, say, all right, we're all learning together. Here's an instrument. And she would give up all of her lunch times before schools, after schools, and make sure that every child who wanted to be part of the instrumental program could. And so, she threw me a clarinet early on, and I landed in the school orchestra and absolutely loved it. That was really getting that experience of what it's like to be in an ensemble, and that then led to other work that I did and continued to become quite more dedicated to playing the piano, and then went on to the conservatorium. So those teachers in that time there, but particularly Mrs. Denham, were really integral, and they were those mentors for me. I've had other mentors throughout my career as well, some great teachers and other musicians and artists that I've worked with. And I think you gain something from everyone because great mentors give so much of themselves. And right now, I'm grateful for the mentors in the Music in Me program because they really do give so much of themselves, often in regional or remote communities, or they are themselves, of course, music specialists who are working in their own school and very dedicated to their own craft. And they've given time out to go and support teachers who've shown an interest. And we all know how incredibly isolating it can feel to be a music specialist in a school. And what they do is provide that support for teachers, which really lights the way for them and builds that community. So I'm very grateful for the mentors, the incredible collection of mentors across the country who work in our program.
Oh, you're so lucky you get to work with these great people. But I
Yes.
think now would be a really good time to give us a snapshot of what Music in Me is all about, because I know it's certainly better known in the southern states, not so much in Queensland, though who knows, that may change, mightn't it? But those of us who don't know about Music in Me.
Sure. So it was established in 2015. So this year is our 10th anniversary. It was originally called the National Music Teacher Mentoring Program. So some of your listeners may recognize that. We changed the name to Music in Me last year, a bit of a rebrand, but the vision and the principles of the program remain the same. What we deliver is a national teacher mentoring program, especially in music. We pair experienced music educators with generalist teachers or sometimes novice music specialists, people who are new to being a music specialist in a school. So they're paired to support their skill development and build their confidence. It was established back in 2015 to address the reduction in music education for initial teacher education, as I mentioned. That was demonstrated, as we know, in the 2005 National Review of Music Education, where it was noted that teachers received on average 17 hours of music education in a four-year degree. Then in 2023, the Tony Foundation, the Music Education Right from the Start group, released further research, and they demonstrated it had reduced to an average of 8 hours. So for a primary school teacher to receive just 8 hours on average of music education as part of their primary teaching degree is not sufficient for them to be able to deliver the curriculum as it is. So our program was established to address that gap. And so we support these mentors. We work with our state and local partners in different jurisdictions where we can build those partnerships. And they partner with us to develop the capacity and the confidence of teachers working in classes. We identify these great music educators. We design and deliver professional learning for them, often in person, but also online. And that's designed to develop and build their skills as mentors. That's a really important craft to be a good mentor. And then we facilitate the program with these state and local partners where they are sent into a school and work side by side with teachers delivering a tailored program of mentoring. It's not a prescriptive program. We don't say in week 1 you do this and week 2 you do this. We present a whole range of resources that they can draw upon. But the real key to our program is the professional learning that we provide to our mentors. It enables them to be able to meet the teacher that they're working with, to assess where they're at, what they want to achieve, what would work for them in their context, and design a tailored program of mentoring and skill development and support that will be delivered usually over 2 terms. A standard program of mentoring is a school would sign up in term 4 or term 1 of the year, and then they'd be matched with a mentor. And then the mentor over term 2 and 3 would have a series of visits going into the school. And they leave their own school, they spend some time, usually once a week, once a fortnight, or it depends on the particular program, on the geography as well. But they will go into this school and spend time in that teacher's classroom. And that's really the beauty of it. The teacher who's receiving that mentoring, that professional learning, doesn't have to leave school. They don't have to get a casual teacher. They don't have to do something out of hours or on the weekend. They have this expert in the classroom with them, teaching them all those incredible things, which us as music educators, I think there's a lot of assumed knowledge. For an example, how to manage a noisy, excited classroom when there's instruments being handed out, how to start a song together, how to get the right vocal range for a song that you're singing. All of those kinds of things are things that we as music educators inherently understand, but these are things that take time to develop and explain and support. So a mentor will sometimes they will give a demonstration lesson, and then they'll be explaining how and why they're doing what they're doing. Other times they might be teaching side by side with the teacher, team teaching, or taking it in turns. I do it, now you do it. And then at other times they'll be observing and providing feedback and continuing to set incremental, sequential goals for that teacher so that week by week they can build on the skills that they're wanting to develop.
Well, can I say how lucky are those novice music teachers or classroom teachers? Because you're getting, it's almost like it's an apprenticeship and a course and a personally tailored learning situation all rolled into one. Like
Mhm.
you can't get that sort of learning any other way, really, which is, I guess,
No.
one of my questions was, the vision behind this, why mentoring specifically, but I guess I've just sort of partially answered that, haven't I? Because you
Well, I
can't,
think,
yeah.
yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, go on,
Uh,
go on.
I think Richard Gill founded it in 2015 because it is such a simple idea, and the people that he spoke to agreed, thank goodness, and have continued to fund it since then. That idea of having one teacher learning us alongside another in the
Mm.
classroom. It's not a hierarchy of the mentor and the mentored teacher. They're both professionals with great skills, just in different areas. And so Richard's vision was to harness that expertise of these highly skilled and dedicated music specialists, because we know from our research that professional learning really sticks when it's personal and when it's practical and when it happens over a period of time.
Mm. Yeah, which is what this is, isn't it? So,
Exactly.
so Richard Gill's legacy is really living on through this, isn't it?
Absolutely. I feel incredibly humbled to be able to, when I was first asked to take on this program. It felt like a wonderful cycle, actually, having
Mm.
spent some formative years in arts administration, working and observing Richard, and now to be asked to come back and support this program, which has such a foundational impact.
Mm. And you would like to think too that a natural consequence of that is that as the novice teachers gain in experience, well, they will want to also give back.
Yes,
It's a culture of giving and sharing that
absolutely.
that we're
Yeah,
building.
that definitely is the goal. That particularly, you mentioned the novice music specialist. So, for example, that often will be a school won't have access to a music specialist for whatever reason. There may not be anyone in their local area, or it's just not possible for them to get that person. We do know the number of specialists is declining as well. And
Hmm.
so the principal may say, okay, Mrs. Jones in year 4, you play the piano, you're now our music specialist. And we all know that there's a lot that can be done to support that teacher getting to where they need to be. So bringing a mentor in is part of that process. It's not everything. It opens the door and it provides an opportunity for someone who does have the generosity and the skills to start sharing and supporting that teacher. It might be then directing them to some Kodai training or some offshore work training, or to involve their school in the state instrumental festival or other great
Hmm.
opportunities. If there is an instrumental program running in the school already, then it really does serve to underpin the musical culture within the school if
Right.
good music is happening in the classroom.
All right.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
So you don't see it as the one and only solution. This is a
no.
part of a nice big jigsaw puzzle, but it can provide great value.
Absolutely.
Mm.
And there are many, many schools in Australia, and the need is great. There's no one instant fix for this challenge. It is something which there are some incredible organisations and programs running across Australia and statewide, and locally, and we can all do what we can to work together for sure. I see that if a program takes on a mentor, if a school takes on a mentor and they build on their culture and their teachers' skills, then that makes it all the more likely that they will start an instrumental program, or that they will invite Musica Viva into their school, or they
Yes.
will take their students to go and see the local orchestra, or they will be engaged in, they might connect with wonderful local musicians of the cultures in their community in a new way with new skills. So it's just one step that can be part of the
I,
culture of the school.
I love that. So could you give us maybe some specific stories or some ideas of the impact that you're seeing? Like this sounds great. Of course, in theory, it sounds amazing. So, but what are you actually seeing now? If you've been doing this for 10 years, so what are you
Mm.
seeing for teachers and students?
So currently, our last count, I think we had just over 1,100 teachers across the country have had a mentoring program
Oh,
for
wow.
them, which is quite extraordinary. And so when you look at how many students that would benefit as well, and then the enduring impact for those students as those teachers go on to teach other classes as well, we're talking tens, hundreds of thousands of children who have been impacted. We've
Mm.
been very fortunate. We've worked with Professor Margaret Barrett from Monash University since the program was established. She was at UQ previously. She has conducted a range of really excellent research on our program and supported us being able to build an evaluation process as well for our program. And that really does help us to track what the impact is of the program and to continue to look at it and scrutinise what we're doing as the landscape changes, to look at where we need to change our practices as well and evolve what we do. So we've shown from Margaret's research, which is peer reviewed and has been published, you can certainly have a look at some of that on our website, musicinme.au, that teachers gain confidence, they gain a sense of identity and of music being part of their identity, and it supports their well-being. We've certainly demonstrated those things. For the students, our research demonstrates that it improves children's musical skills and their ability to sing in tune and to work together as all the wonderful things that do happen when you introduce music in a classroom. The joy, the engagement, the language development. There's data around supporting all of those areas as a result of their teacher gaining those skills. And schools overall report a cultural change, music being part of their daily life of the school. As I mentioned, the program is tailored to different situations. For an example, we can work in a remote model with schools that may be in very regional or remote areas, and there may not be a mentor that's close by. In those situations, we might send a mentor to them for an intensive period of time, and then they'll keep in touch online rather than having those regular meetings in person. We find with that, as long as they develop that relationship at the start, the impact is the same in that regional model. We also have examples of schools where the whole school has participated over a period of years in mentoring, and there's quite a number of wonderful case studies in various states that we've documented, where over a period of time, every teacher in the school has received mentoring, and obviously as that attrition occurs, new teachers are brought in and also mentored. But what also then happens is the teachers who are more experienced then mentor teachers within their own school. So it does become cyclic in that regard. We also have a model in South Australia where teachers are mentored for multiple years. There's a 1, 2, and 3 year model there. And that particularly supports teachers in the early years of learning who may have very little music experience or confidence. And so having that multi-year support, and it's a different level of contact in the second and third year, but different goals as well in what they're to achieve. But it does demonstrate that learning continues, and those relationships that they build with their mentor also continues. So with Margaret's research, the first wave of research that she did with us over the early years was specifically looking at the impact on the children. How do they benefit from that increased and quality music education, and what's our role in supporting that? And we tested it by conducting, or Margaret and her team conducted research across 11 schools. The research had measured specifically the children's singing and their attitudes to music before and after mentoring. And as I mentioned, those results were really clear that it did have a very positive impact. And the attitudes at the schools also changed. The next wave of research as such that we did with Margaret was looking at the impact on the teachers themselves who were being mentored, on how their skill development was improved, and how that our program is addressing the decline in music provision for them. And again, that did show some really encouraging findings. The teachers who previously lacked confidence became able to lead singing and musical activities as their children's musical skills improved and the classrooms became more positive and engaged. And then Margaret looked at what happens once the mentors step away. Is there an enduring impact of the program? And she published a wonderful paper last year looking especially at that. She reconnected with teachers a year after their mentoring had ceased, and it did demonstrate that the benefits were still evident. Teachers confidently embedding music into their daily routines and using it to support transitions in their classroom or assemblies or the school culture. So the students remained engaged, and I think that is where mentoring is different to other professional learning. Perhaps when you go to a one-off event, you get some great benefits from it. But what we're demonstrating is that the mentoring process does have long-term gains, which can build lasting capacity for the teacher and in the school.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Okay. If a teacher is listening today, I guess they have to be in Australia, don't they? Sorry, overseas people. Though overseas people can check out the website and find out all about it. But if an Australian teacher is interested and is thinking of, let's see what's involved. Could I get involved? What are the pathways? What should they do?
Definitely. So if you're a teacher who's thinking, I'd like to be mentored, then certainly speak to your school principal and take a look at our website. There is a section, join our program, and there's information and contacts for different states. We have partnerships currently with the New South Wales Department of Education, with the Victorian Department of Education, and we work directly with a number of schools in South Australia, in Western Australia, and soon a little bit more in Queensland. So, and by the same token, if there are schools elsewhere who would like to be involved, there's no harm in getting in touch with us. We can certainly look to set up a bespoke program for you. The investment is in the mentor's time. What we provide is the training and support for the mentor, to find the right person, to match them up, to train them on how to be a mentor. We provide a range of resources. We do research and advocacy and so on, and we put on events in professional learning and help to facilitate the mentoring program. But what the school or the Department of Education pays for is the casual release for that mentor when they come to your school. So if you're a teacher, if you're a music specialist and you think maybe I'd like to become a mentor, we would love to hear from you as well. You can also go to our website and there's follow the links and you can sign up there, show your interest. There is a process, of course, where we would ask to find out a bit more about you. And then if there is a school within your region that's interested, then we can certainly look at matching you up. If you're a school leader, really think about what is that investment that you can consider to support your teachers. We know anecdotally that mentoring and the act of being mentored or becoming a mentor can really support a teacher's own career sustainability and well-being. And in fact, we're doing some research into that area at the moment as well. So I really do encourage school leaders and decision makers to consider this as an investment in retaining your staff, both the mentors and the teachers who are being mentored, because it really does give so much rich learning and satisfaction to all those who are involved. Also, if you're a music specialist and perhaps you're in a high school, look to the primary schools in your area. Who are your feeder schools? Do they have confident and successful music programs in the classroom? And if maybe they need a bit of support, then perhaps you can speak to those schools and suggest that they might consider taking on a mentor. That way you can build the capacity in the primary schools that are supporting you.
Mm, mm. Yes, I love that. And I think one of the ways that you could help get your school leaders support is, as you say, come at it from the well-being perspective, which is not made up. It's a true thing. And with the terrible retention rate, teachers of all sorts are leaving the profession. And I'm quite convinced that part of it is that the joy has been taken out of our work. Music can put some of that joy back for them. It can help with relationships and school environment and general well-being. So it actually could be a little bit of a, I don't want to say just a band-aid, it's not a band-aid. It could be part of the treatment of a bigger problem than just a lack of music in our schools.
Absolutely. Bring the joy back into primary
Yeah,
school. Okay?
absolutely. Goodness. Well, is before we get on to your, I want to do a Nuggets of Fabulous because I'm getting you back for another episode where we're going to talk about another one of your projects, which is very exciting. This episode was all about music in me, but can we just have a Nuggets of Fabulous from you, either a piece of advice or an idea or a resource or anything that you'd love to pass on to the music educators that are listening today? Have you got anything for us, Bernie?
Look, if I could shout out one thing, it is that music belongs to every child, definitely. And your comment, it's not that every child has the right, it's every child needs music education. You're absolutely right. Right now, too many children finish primary school without ever having access to learning music, unfortunately. And that's a structural crisis that we have to change. And this mentoring program and many other things out there are of the light, how we light that way, one teacher at a time. So don't underestimate the power of your own voice. Your students need music in their classrooms. They don't need perfection. They need your presence and your joy. So do keep working out there and know that you're not alone. You're part of an incredible community of music educators and people like me who are in organisations trying to do the best we can behind the scenes as well to support you, because we absolutely believe in what you do.
That is a nugget. We agree with that one. And that's probably even going to count as your soapbox moment too, because that is the soapbox moment, isn't it?
Yeah,
Like
I think it is.
people have to believe in what they're doing. And in fact, they can re-listen to this episode if they forget.
Don't forget.
Now, is there anything else you'd like to add before I say goodbye on this episode and then welcome you back for our chat about the sing program, ABC Let's Sing? But that's before we talk about that. Anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Well, I guess if there's anyone listening who has been involved in the program in the past, either as a mentor or they were mentored themselves, we'd love to hear from you. We are doing a research project, as I mentioned, currently with Monash University, where we are surveying all of the people who've been involved in the program in the past. And so you may have received a survey from us. If you haven't, please get in touch with us via our website, because we'd love to talk to you about what has been your experience of the program. What impact did it have at any particular point in your career? So yes, if you have been involved, know that we would love to hear from you and we'd love to get in touch. So don't be a stranger.
Oh, I like that. And of course, it goes without saying that I will put in the show notes the links to make connections with Music in Me, obviously your main website, but anything else, I'll get you to send it to me, Bernie, and I'll put it in the show notes. And if any of you are looking for the show notes, there's always a page on crescendo.com.au where each of the podcasts episodes are hosted, and you can find the episode and they're all there just ready for you to click.
Terrific. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for telling us about Music in Me, Bernie. It's just been a delight.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really, really appreciate it. And I think that all that you do is quite extraordinary. And I can't wait to keep listening to your podcast. And thank you so much for everything that you do.
Thank you. And we'll talk again soon. Bye.
Bye.
As we know, laughter relieves stress. Don't lose sight of the funny side of life. It's a 5-minute walk from my house to the pub, and it's a 30-minute walk from the pub to my house. The difference is staggering. Thank you so much for watching our Crescendo Music Education podcast. For more information about all things Crescendo, including membership and music education resources, visit us at crescendo.com.au. Don't forget to like and subscribe.